As you will have heard me say many times on this channel, consistency is key to credibility. I.e., if you've said something before and you stick to that story and you say it again, then it's likely to be more believable, it's likely to be more credible. Because one of the things that we very often criticize and we certainly cross-examine on and judges and juries take into account are previous inconsistent statements. So I read in news articles today about witness statements that have come to light that were released to journalists yesterday, as in yesterday the 29th of March 2023, in the case with Prince Harry against Associated Newspapers and of course others against Associated Newspapers. Now this apparently is a witness statement drafted by a private investigator that was signed supposedly in 2021. I say supposedly because I haven't seen it myself, so I'm telling you as I read it in the news articles from journalists who seem to have received this statement and I haven't. These are obviously released in short order to a select few journalists, and then later they become available to anyone that wants to pay for them because it's public justice. Unless, of course, there's an order that they're not released, but those are few and far between. This witness statement that was apparently signed in 2021 was from Gavin Burrows, a private investigator. In it, it says that he claims that he and his team obtained information, hacked voicemails, tapped landline phones, bugged cars, all on behalf of journalists who presumably were paying for their services. It went on for some 20 pages going into detail about how he allegedly tapped Elton John's domestic landline, bugged cars belonging to Hugh Grant and Carol Middleton, and also targeted Harry's girlfriends. Apparently, Burrows had described how he'd engaged in this illegal activity on behalf of the Mail on Sunday, describing it as one of the biggest and most regular clients. And in the very briefest of distractions, you might be very pleased to hear that we have now launched Proofify, linked in the description below. It is currently available for the early bird subscription of $4.99 per month, only until the end of April. You can get access to it right now. It's available to sign up in the description below, where you can store your proof. And as I said in this video, consistency and credibility go hand in hand. If you want to prove a case in court later, you need the evidence, and it needs to be consistent and it needs to be credible. If you save the proof as early as possible, whether that's an agreement with a friend with a garage, whether you're taking a car somewhere and you want to prove damage or you want to prove that there was something there later on, then you need to rely on that in court. What better way than to use Proofify, which is now, I'm very pleased to say, available as a early soft launch in the description below, so check that out. And now back to the video. It's reported that in this original witness statement, Burrows is admitting to a wide variety of crimes, stating that he'd targeted thousands of people on behalf of the Mail. However, counsel for Associated Newspapers told the court yesterday that all of these claims are now directly contradicted by a second witness statement from the same private investigator, Mr. Burrows. In the new statement by Burrows that is said to have been signed about 3 weeks ago, he essentially recants or takes back what he said in his previous statement, now saying that he was never asked to, quote, conduct unlawful information gathering by the Daily Mail or by Mail on Sunday, and denies having been paid cash for work on behalf of those newspapers. This has of course been met with a fairly stark observation by the judge, Mr. Justice Nicklin, who has said that Harry and the other claimants may, quote, need to adjust their expectations regarding the use of Mr. Burrows' evidence. Although it does appear that this judge has now hinted that this case should go to trial, saying that the quality of the evidence and the inherent contradictions or apparent contradictions in these two witness statements is essentially a point for trial. Mr. Justice Nicklin saying there is a trial point if ever I've seen one. And you know what? Funnily enough, I agree with him. Associated Newspapers are of course denying the allegations and ironically trying to stop the case from going to a full trial. Although this second witness statement, which seems to contradict the first, seems to be giving rise to this trial point, which could of course ultimately push this case to a full trial. It seems to me that there are two distinctly different points of view on this entire case. One that might seem like wild conspiracy theories, that these private investigators are doing criminal activities in order to gather private information and feed it to the newspapers. And on the other hand, some people might well believe that journalism has got to such a point where they will pay private investigators who are willing to take fees and are willing to do such criminal acts to find enough information, which they will in turn feed to journalists, which turn into stories and feed the big media machine. But either way you look at it, that was the big development from yesterday, a starkly contradictory statement from that which was provided beforehand. And as you often hear me say on this channel, contradictions versus consistency are often the deciding factors in these trials. So I will come back, I will report further, I will break down these little interesting points for you. But in the meantime, please do make sure you smash that like button and subscribe. Thank you all so much for subscribing just recently. I really appreciate the growth of the channel. It's all thanks to you, and I thank you for watching.